Hello everyone. Sufficient cause. We do have three types of causes: necessarily cause, sufficient cause, and component cause. The set of conditions without any one of which the disease would not have occurred is called sufficient cause. This is one whole pie. Sufficient cause represents the whole pie. If disease always results from the factor, then we term causative factor sufficient. If it inevitably initiates or produces an effect, includes component causes. It's a minimal combination of risk factors acting on the individual, on the etiological agent, if one is involved, or in the environment whose occurrence in an individual life inevitably results a disease. So combination of risk factors which lead to a disease of an individual is called sufficient cause. So the presence of sufficient cause means that disease is initiated already. This explanation is truly serves for both infectious and non-infectious disease. Let me give you an example. If you have A is sufficient for B, it means that every time you have A, you will have B, without any exception. So if you have A, you will have B. So necessity or necessarily cause excludes other methods or possibilities, whereas sufficient does not exclude other possibilities. So this is a difference between sufficient cause and necessary cause. Example for sufficient cause: the absence of oxygen is a sufficient condition for human death. When we see the third cause is a component cause, any one of the set of conditions which are necessary for the completion of sufficient cause is called component cause. This means this is a piece of pie. The whole pie is sufficient cause, but the piece of cause that forms the sufficient cause is the component cause. Let me show you in picture. This is sufficient cause 1, this is sufficient cause 2, and this is sufficient cause 3. So when you compare the three, for instance, this is Roseman's causal pie, conceptual scale for disease causation. For all factors together form the sufficient cause. This is all factor means A is a factor, E, D, C, B is all are individually. When it's individually, they are component cause. So all factors together form sufficient cause. So the whole this pie is sufficient cause. The whole this pie is sufficient cause. The whole this pie is sufficient. But it is a piece of pie, one single pie. For instance, B is a component cause. Together form a sufficient cause. While a component cause A, this A constitutes necessary cause, meaning A is found from the three. This is A found on this is A, on this is A, this is A, this is A, and this is A. A is found on the three pies. So A is considered to be necessary cause. A is considered to be the necessary cause. So A is necessary cause since it appears a member of each sufficient cause, but B, C, D, E, F are not necessary cause since they fail to appear in all three sufficient cause. So A, B, C, D, E, F are not found. B, C, D, E, F are not found from the three, but A is found from the three. So A is a necessary cause, but these five pieces or components are sufficient cause. But when you see individually, when you see C is a component cause or D is a component cause. This is all about the difference between component cause, sufficient cause, and necessary cause. Attributes of the causal pie: a completion of sufficient cause is synonymous with occurrence of the disease. Component causes can act far apart in time. Component cause can involve in the presence of causative exposure or the lack of preventive exposure, either by presence or by absence. It can be occurred. Blocking of an action of any component cause prevents the completion of the sufficient cause and therefore prevents the disease by that pathway. That means if you avoid or if you prevent the component cause, you will prevent the disease. So these four are attributes of the causal pie. Theories of disease causation. We do have four type